How much merchandise should you order? This is a question I ask myself all the time, and there's no right or wrong answer, and there's not a consistent answer, but I always like to err on the side of being conservative somewhat, but also believing that there's going to be huge merchandise sales. But the best thing you can do is find out the event that you're going to be at, pick up the phone, and call ahead of time and say, hey, how many people do you normally get at this? Who played last year? Do kids buy a lot of merch? What do they tend to like there? Find out. If this is just your show and your own promoted show, well, then you got to look at your previous numbers. If you're just starting out, well, then maybe you only want to press like maybe 20 or 30 shirts. You don't want to be pressing like 100 plus shirts for your very first show. You know what I mean? Unless you know there's going to be tons of people, and there's going to be different people that will buy a shirt or buy CDs, or you've got a tour coming up, something planned. But like if you've only got a few dates, you know what I mean, coming up, then you don't want to be getting stuck with boxes and boxes of merch. And I really want to make sure you need to look at what you have and say, okay, I've got merchandise, and we've only got these shows. That means I need to do a big, hard push and sale on the last two shows to really move it. But I'll be honest, it's also frustrating, especially when you're on a fly day to your packing and you didn't know how well merch was going to go. I went and did something in Whitehorse, which is like the Canadian version of Alaska, and I remember just selling out of stuff. I remember being at another festival and just selling out of stuff, and sometimes I just didn't know. Like, I didn't bring enough hoodies, and I brought tons of shirts and CDs, but it was the hoodies that sold out. And the hoodies that were like $40, it only cost me $15, so the markup was way huger, and yet I got all these boxes of CDs, and I'm thinking to myself, frick, man, I should have brought more hoodies. And you know what? I learned from the last time, so I brought way more hoodies this time so that I crushed it the next time I went there. And so, you learn from experience, and you learn from the different markets, because different places you play aren't always going to want to buy the same thing. I've learned that some places really like these custom graffiti hats that we do, and other places they just don't sell very well, especially between Europe or in North America, depending on where you go. Some people buy CDs a lot more. Remember, we were in Switzerland one time, and it was the CDs that sold out and not the merchandise. It's like, why didn't I bring more CDs? Because I thought that they didn't buy it. They wanted more merch just like North America did. But no, it's different. Markets are different, so it really depends, and you got to kind of do your homework and find out. Talk to different bands, talk to the festival owner. What do fans typically really like, so I can make sure I bring lots of that stuff. So you learn the hard way, and then you just plan. I get rebooked for a show sometimes, and so I'll go back and look at my numbers, because I track all my numbers in a spreadsheet of what I sold. I don't actually track the individual items of what I sold. I need to do that, but I at least track what I sold, so I can see, okay, we killed it here, and then I'll tend to remember, be like, oh yeah, they liked this, or they liked that. I got to make sure I bring tons of that, and sometimes I'll just ship it. If I can't, if we're not driving and we're flying and I can only bring so many bags, I'll just ship stuff ahead of time to make sure it's there and to make sure we're loaded up. Always worth it, and make sure you plan and do your homework.